with the CNET acquisition, and please draw on your experience. I know you've worked on a number of deals. This one is just particularly interesting. Because CNET was essentially, in turn, the second part of the deal, acquiring CBS Digital, or at least absorbing it. It seems like talent, identifying the key talent that you wanted to keep and the talent that maybe was not going to survive the merged organization. How did you identify those folks that you wanted to keep? And then how did you manage knowing that there would be layoffs? How did you manage through that?
Sure. Well, going back to the diligence process, a significant part of our diligence process is always on management. It's one of the biggest assets you're going to acquire, especially with a company like CNET, which is it's a technology, a content type company. So throughout that, whether it's, maybe you guys all know Neil and Xander, the CEO, CFO, but then each individual layer of each of the business units that they had, we would interview, going up to our CEO. Our CEO met all of them, and their head of sales. So we knew way before we started looking at the numbers what we were getting as far as management, and we liked it, which is why we ended up doing the deal. Then
you had a very good view into CNET then.
Very good view, and we've known them over the years. We had some partnerships with them, so we knew how they negotiate, how they act. So we knew a fair amount of their team. So yes, so that was hurdle 1 and 2 really to get under the covers. Then when you go and compare people, there wasn't, in terms of brands and business units, there wasn't a huge overlap, which was nice. We had basically, sports and entertainment, and they had games and CNET or technology. So in terms of that type of product, there's not a lot of overlap. Where there was overlap was technology, finance, back office, things like that. So that we had to go through, team by team and evaluate that. But what we did, as painful as it was we did it quickly. The whole death by 1,000 cuts analogy is torturous for companies, for people, for morale. So folks knew it was coming. We did it rather quickly. We were generous with folks as far as severance and whatnot. Or we're also a big company. We move people around in different places within the company. So.
In preparing for this panel, I went back and read some of the news reports, and of course the rumors are running wild out there of how many people are going to be laid off, and before any formal announcement is made. So during that time, when your employees know that their jobs are being evaluated, what is the key thing that you were doing to kind of keep them motivated and working through what is a very anxious time?
Sure. Well, in that case or in other cases, there are always money incentives, right? There are always either the deal closes, you make some money, or there's just incentives to stay around as is even part of an integration team. So it could be on a consulting basis, but we needed folks to stay around, and we had to incent them in some way. And how do you do that? So it's either money or again, the talent pool didn't necessarily have to be just limited to the interactive function. Maybe we had some digital efforts in radio and in TV stations, and we would have them explore other areas within the company just to show them that we cared about them. We liked talented people. There were some talented people that got let go because it was duplicative. But to treat them with respect, sometimes with some dollars, and showing them opportunities throughout the company helped.
Jim, what's been your experience in the talent space? I mean, this joint venture is happening in an industry that's been through a lot of pain in the last 18 months. So when it came to who stayed and who went, how did you evaluate talent? I guess that's the first question.
Yeah, I'm going to extend that to how do we retain them as well, right? So the key to us to retaining people was 2 things. The first was people really had to know and understand the strategic rationale for the deal. So while you can do social things that kind of help bind people, in this kind of transaction, people had to believe that the organization that was coming out of it was so much stronger than either organization that went into it that they really wanted to be part of it. So we spent a lot of time communicating the underlying strategy of being the largest and most productive wealth management firm, and showing the synergies and showing the capabilities that will allow us to have. To give you an illustration of that, the individual IT budgets of either side were about $500 million plus or minus. So combined it's $1 billion. But on either side of the $500 million, maybe $100 million could be spent on discretionary building capabilities as opposed to just running the place. So maybe $200 million in the aggregate. By the time we're done, we will both save substantial money against the $1 billion and have development budgets, discretionary development budgets that are twice as big. And so in terms of when you talk to the field about what we can do for them, it will be much more. In terms of talent, the critical thing to us was to inspire people with the vision and then move incredibly quickly to tell people what their roles were going to be in the new organization. So before we closed, we'd fully identified all the way down in the large home office populations who was staying, and if people needed to go, we told them, unfortunately, they needed to go and why. So people were clear both about where we were going and where they were going.
You bringing together employees, and this is often the case in an acquisition, who were fierce competitors for many, many years. Did that factor into your efforts to blend these former competitors into a single organization?
In this case, no, because if you ask me, what's the single most important factor in an integration of this kind, the answer would be culture. So if the cultures are the same or very close to the same, the integration effort can succeed relatively easily. If they're different, it will be painful and potentially not successful. Here, the fundamental cultures of the financial advisors, both at Legacy Smith Barney and Legacy Morgan Stanley, are virtually the same. In fact, we have a number of advisors in Morgan Stanley who originally started out at Smith Barney, and Smith Barney had a number of advisors who originally started out at Morgan Stanley. The field culture of running an FA-centric wealth management organization is the same, and therefore the people up and down who are working on it have known each other for a long time and work in similar ways.